So I kid you not, this is about 2 years later actually. I returned the other boards to my repairman. It's just these 1Fs, there were 2 of them. And I paid him a little bit for the value of spares, because I thought these are write-offs. Because at the time I couldn't get any D0s. This is the one where there's no pad damage there. You may have seen the previous repair I did on a 2-slot there, which I donated to Stephen Leary just to say thanks for all the work on the Terrible Fire stuff. Yeah, so this is the board that we borrowed the C1 from. Still flux there, I need to remove that. But I've also got the C1 here, which we removed from the 2-slot there. That's got a fault on the player 2 direction inputs, but it would work on here as a single player board. So that's what I'll do, I'll fit that back on there. Still got some of the solder, needs removing there as well. Obviously this didn't have the RAM, removed the RAM to rule out the address issue that I think was present on this board. But anyway, and this can be fixed as well, and I have every intentions, maybe in the next part, of fixing this board if I can. But anyway, back to the other board. So on both boards, it was the D0. There may be a second fault on that other board, the one with the addressing faults. You know, it's coming up with some like ROM error, wasn't it? A something to A something. It drove me nuts, that, which is why on that other board, like, the CPU was socketed, some of the 7.4 stuff around here was socketed. I mean, that one there's socketed on this one, the 259, I think that is probably. In any case, there's still clean-up work needed to be done here, but I think from the testing I did with the D0s, one of them was sort of temporarily working, wasn't it? And they had a bodge where I stuck that 7.4 F74 or something on there, or HC74, and I managed to recreate one of the clocks, and we sort of had some activity, and then one of the other clock pins died on it before it completely died. Those D0s just seem to be on the last legs on both boards. So I've got these from Furrtek. It's a modern replacement using a CPLD for the D0. Now this is the proto one. I've had this for quite a while now, I've just not got around to doing it. So there's a bit of captain tape there that probably doesn't feature on the real one, although that might be for all, because that's probably the program points, actually thinking about it. Yeah, that would make sense. I bet those are the programming points. But because it's proto, I need to add a resistor. So I've got some resistors here, some super small ones. It needs to be between 2 of the pins. So yeah, we need to do that. It's on the clock pins, I think, between the 2 clock pins. 560k I think it is, but I think he said somewhere up to a meg, so we may need to experiment with other sizes. But anyway, we'll see if we can get one of these on here. Pin 1 is down here, isn't it? I don't know where the pin 1 marking is here. Oh, it's up there. So it's going to go that way, around like that, and we'll see if it works. I'm hoping this board may then spring back to life. Right, so anchored down here and anchored up there. I'll just get some flux around this, and we'll have a go at drag soldering. It is secure, by the way. Just just touching that gently. It's secured on both points. I'm really not sure the best way to do this. I'm using a different tip that I usually use here. It's a a chisel tip, so I might need to swap over to the Antec. So just move that cap out of the way a little bit, and let's just have, I don't know, a bit of a drag maybe. Yeah, I need a different tip, I think. I don't think this is going to cut it, because it's too, well, certainly the angle I'm at, I'm not sure if I'm getting connections there. Maybe I am, I don't know. It's really blooming hard to tell without magnification. Yeah, you do need quite a lot of solder with these castellated edges. But anyway, you can see, yeah, I've had a go at that. Anyway, I will report back when I've done the other 3 sides. So this is working out okay, actually. It's not as challenging as I thought it would be. I have struggled with these castellated edges in the past. The best way to do it is do 2 passes. I'll show you this here at a distance. I can't really see what I'm doing, but do a drag like this along this way. But then when you inspect, it looks like there's no arc from the bottom of the pad there. You can see that heating up there, actually, when I'm doing that, which is bound to do, and that's an important point here. Is that when you use these replacement things like this, that have got a piece, a chip on a PCB, if you ever have to take this off, obviously you may destroy it, and may need to actually put the CPLD back on if you misalign it when you remove with hot air. But anyway, if you go that way first, then get more solder, perhaps more flux, and then the tip I've got here, I'm facing it like that into the side of the castellated edge there, and go sideways like that with a slightly slower drag, and then you get really nice arcs from the pad up the side of the castellated edge. Anyway, I need to use magnification. I can't see anything from here. I need to do more cleaning around there, but it's on there, and it's on there good. I've shown this before. When you have these devices that have got castellated edges, or castellated edges, I think it is. Yeah, the via on the top, if you probe from that to the actual pad, yeah, you can test whether you've got connectivity. Yeah. And if you step along, I can't see what I'm doing here, yeah, you can work out whether you've got any shorts. So there are no shorts between any of the pins adjacent, you know, next to each other, and every single point on the top of this PCB joins to the pad below it. So I know that the solder points there are perfect, actually, and I don't believe I have any shorts. So let's go and try it and switch it on. Yeah, nothing at the moment, I don't think. But we did have video there. I think, oh, obviously, it needs that cap, doesn't it? Sorry, resistor, not cap. So, yeah, we've got a video signal. Right, you can't win them all. This is going to be another one of these where it could be another 2 years waiting for our next video. I think it needs a new C1, this. The D0 seems to work alright. If I hold down A, B, C, D, hang on, select start, you'll notice there's an H error, and now I'm not holding down D. So straight away I'm like, that's a C1 fault, actually. Unless there's a bad connection around there. I'll check that in a minute. So if I hold down A, B, C, D, and press select start, that takes me to that menu. This is calendar IO MVS only. So we've got an issue there. I think that's probably going to be the C1 causing that. Anyway, controller test, I'll show you that. Left, right doesn't work, down does, up does. Yeah, so you've got one direction missing, and you can see D is showing a high there. Select and start work okay there. Hang on, I've gone back around. And it's the similar thing with player 2. Player 2's got one button that doesn't work and one direction that doesn't work. So yeah, the C1 is balked on this. And actually, the C1 that's on this board is the one that came from the other board where it was corroded really badly in that area of the C1. So it looks like on both of these 1Fs, both of the D0s died, although one was a bit intermittent eventually and gave up the ghost. And one of the C1s died. The original C1 that was on this board is the one that went onto the other board, which came off and went into that 2 slot that went to Stephen. So I've got the same problem I had before, but now with the C1 I've got no C1 chips. In theory I could put the one I took off Stephen's board on here. I might do that and get this up and running as a one, player system. Let's just go back round again. So WRAM, BRAM test. WRAM test only AES, so it thinks it's an AES, doesn't it? And I'm guessing that's the C1 that's causing that. So that's alright, isn't it? WRAM. Select start again, back round we go again. Palette RAM. So that's the fast RAM, you press A, passes. That's going up, so that's all looking good. I mean, I'm pleased because we made some progress, but it's blooming annoying, isn't it? Because, let's hold down A again. Passes, yeah. All the RAM looks good on this. I think it's just the C1 actually. So yeah, how annoying is that? Is that dip switches maybe? Yeah, see down here, system type AES. It is yeah, frustrating as hell. So I think I'm going to set this off. Let's put the one you saw that came off the, it's got a faulty player 2 port, but the sound arbitration, the stuff on that works. It doesn't do anything crazy like this one, because this has got 2 issues. It's, well, a few issues. It's got 4 or 5 button inputs faulty, yeah. And some of them seem to be the ones down here, which is the corroded area on the other board. That makes sense. And the other problem with this is it thinks it's an AES mode. So, and I think that controls it. I could be wrong. Could be another fault with this yet. It could be a bad connection on the D0, but I'll be honest, I've checked all these wires around here and stuff, they all look good. These traces here all are okay, so yeah, I think, I'll tell you what, let's just get a little bit of flux on there. There's bound to still be some from when I originally fitted it. I'm not going to add absolutely tons and tons and tons of flux here because it's just going to burn off pretty much instantly, but we'll just add a little bit. It's also going to slide around with the heat a bit, the flux there. Let's just add some more down this side. Hopefully we won't lose any pads here, I don't know, because this has been off here twice I think on this board. So yeah, I'll just get the fume extractor, switch that on, and yeah, you can see captain tape here for the port. Let's just go in for the kill with this and just hope it comes off without any damage. Yeah, it's coming up there, can you see that? I'm not levering this at all, I'm just look gently lifting. There we go, so that's it. So I think I got away without any pad damage there. So I've let that cool down a little bit, but I'm just taking advantage of the fact it's still a little bit warm here, and we'll just gently mop up. Anyway, I'll report back in a sec. Right, there we go, let's clean and prep that area, and then we'll clean and prep the chip. Yeah, you can see what happens with the flux, it gets baked on there, it goes like really hard. So there'll be a link top right to the 2-slot video where I showed more of this process, but it's a case of you know, braid with some flux and gently just drag across the tops of the pins. Don't put any pressure on really, you're just like trying to be feather light. But you should hear that noise, can you hear there's like a noise from friction? Just a little bit. If you don't get that, you're not making a proper thermal connection to the top of it. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this. There's like mysterious bits of wire. Let me see if I can put you on macro, hang on. Right, macro is on. Can you see these strands? Look at that there. There's loads of them across all the pins on that side. I don't know what it is. Is it from the braid? Under magnification, I'm having to just wipe it with the iron, try and get these wires off. There's loads of them. There's one final look, but trust me, there's like dozens of little wires over it. I kid you not, it's took about 20 minutes to get all those bits of wire off that, and I'm still not convinced they're all gone until I've got rid of the flux here. They're so small, I've never seen such fine wire. Is it from the braid? Is it from a wire brush? It's definitely wire. It's not like the low melting point solder that's either going strandy or something, you know, changing into little strands. It seems to be actual wire. You have to scrape it with the, you know, I had to drag the tip over a number of times at different angles, and eventually I would see it on the tip of the iron coming off. I'll be amazed if this works actually, because I've had to heat it a fair bit a number of times to try and get those strands off. So yeah, it's anybody's guess as to whether it's taking offence. I'm just trying to flatten these before we apply it. I mean, you don't really technically need to do this because you know what, they're all totally straight and totally flat, but it's always a good idea, and then you get it nice and super flat. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to check we don't have shorts before I test it. So we'll get some flux there, I've anchored it on a couple of diagonals. Let's be careful because I think I may have just touched a couple of pins there, so anyway, let's just have a go at drag soldering this. We'll start in the middle. Let's just get some solder. Yeah, fine pitch this. It's a bit harder to solder in my mind than the D0. At least I think it is. I think it's got more pins, isn't it? Yeah, so we've got a bridge down here anyway. I'll just go around the rest of it and I'll show you the end result. Right, suspected balked C1 back on. Now, the cleanup. I will clean again afterwards. I just want to just go around here like this, and then I can do connectivity testing. I want to do that because of those mysterious nano strands. I'm calling them that because you know what? I've never seen wire so thin. Anyway, as long as it works just like it did on the other one, player one, working, and let's hope it boots into MVS mode and not AAS. Could be another fault here, could be a bad connection still. But I'm pretty sure we did have a controller fault. Anyway, I'm just going to measure for shorts now. Right, all connected up at the moment of truth. Oh yes, fantastic. So yeah, we've got this one working, I think. But you can see now, it's in MVS mode, no worries. So yeah, that C1 was balked. That is the issue. Calendar, yeah, that's working. Let's just do the different pulses. B, C, D return. Colour bars, D. Controller test. So you've got up, down, left, right, A, B, C, D. Select, start, that's good. Let's just test player 2. We should have the same faults we had on that MV2. It was some directions, wasn't it? So yeah, look, right's already on, down, left, up doesn't work, A, B, C, D, select, start. The interesting thing is it's a bit better than it was, just up doesn't work, look. And right sort of on its own, look, which is a bit weird, until you go left. Hang on a minute, that makes me think left and right are short. Strange how up doesn't work. Yeah, I'm just going to check for shorts on that side. Yeah, no shorts on there, just checked. So it's not like the control inputs are shorted. Let's just do A, B, C, D. Just doing controller again. Yeah, so you can see it's got the same problem it did on Stephen's board there. Let's just test it with a cartridge. So just get the wrist strap on again. Yeah, we've got the cart bridge here. That looks pretty much unused, looks good as new, that. So let's get that onto there. And then we've got this here, which sort of, hang on, where's that go? It goes that way, doesn't it, I think? Yeah, it goes that way. So obviously there's screws that hold this on there. I'm not sure if I've still got those. But anyway, let's just try, I don't know, windjammers. So let's just carefully slide that in. Push it in there. I suspect we're going to have a sound fault, but let's just see. And obviously we need a BIOS, don't we? Now this is going to be a problem because I think the BIOS that was here is a faulty one. Actually, I don't know how, but let's just get this original BIOS back on. I think this is a bad BIOS, unless it's just got dirty pins on it. Just see what happens with that. Yeah, that's a bad BIOS. Yeah, so I can't find Unibios. What I have got is a original mask ROM that came, I think, from my original 1FZ. It could have been from, oh, there goes Z80. So, joy, we've now got sound issues to resolve as well. Shame we haven't got a Unibios. So, regards to the Z8 era, I plugged a via here. I'm going to do more testing just to make sure all these vias are passing to the other side there, because they all go from here to the RAM and the Z8 in maybe the SM1, because it's on the same bus as that, isn't it? They're all on the same bus there as the Z80 data bus, I think. It's probably a missing connection there, hopefully. But, you know, it could be something around here. But since we've fitted these things here, and I've not really cleaned up, I just, you know, wiped around the edges with the cotton bud, I figure, we'll just have another go with cotton buds, and then I'll get some IPA and I'll have a bit of a brush around here. But the reason I always do it this way is if you just brush, all you do is just smear this dirt around with a brush. You've got to collect literally 90% of it and then have a bit of brush, and then you have to do the same thing with the cotton buds again. There is a bit of fuzziness around the YM2610 there, can you see that? These pins here, maybe that's going to have to come off, I hope not. Shrink dip. And there's some greenness up there, look, on the Z80. Never noticed that before, those look a little bit green, so yeah, we're assuming it's here. The fault could be here somewhere. So I cleaned up around it with the vinegar. I've used the fiberglass pen, it's looking pretty tidy. If we look at these connections on the SM1, this is the M1 ROM for the Z80, so without that the sound side will not boot. So I've got a connection there, there's a wire there that goes to that one, that's joined, that one goes to that one, that's joined, that one goes to this one, no join. I've pressed pretty hard on the wire and on the pad, no joins, so we need a wire there. I don't think this is going to fix it entirely. We may need to take this off. You can see it looks a bit cleaner now. I've used the fiberglass pen on it, and I did use some vinegar, but I need to toothbrush around here and stuff. But we may need to take that off. We may need to take the Z80 off. We may need to take the SM1 off. The ROM could be dead. I can logic probe things next to see if we've got data bus activity around here and a clock and all that sort of stuff, I guess. Sometimes it can be quite hard trying to diagnose the sound faults on these. I hate working on sound faults on them. Some sound faults are easier to diagnose than others. You know, if you've got like a missing channel or the digital sides are missing or something, you know, there's all sorts of simple things you can do to try and work out the cause. But when you just get Z80 error and then it gives you all sorts of cryptic stuff with the diagnostics ROM, it can be quite hard. I mean, at least we know the C1 is not the issue here. At least that takes a big chunk of the question marks out of the possibilities here, I guess. So I was thinking about the behaviour. I'm not sure I showed you, but in the diagnostics test there, you know, if you hold down D to test with a Z80, M1 test card, it gives the same error, SM1 latch unresponsive, I think it is. But then it says press start to continue. If you do that, you hear the did it does the normal test, but then the screen gets messed up. Yeah, and it freezes. I've seen that before. But nevertheless, just reviewing one of my old videos, and I was just wanting to check my memory really, and that was one board I came across where we had that error, and it was the actual ROM. I removed the ROM and I did a bypass, and I'm going to try that on here in a minute. The fact that we had the sound there is the clue really. You press to start and then you did hear that the test does the series of beeps there. That shows that the Z80 is working. It's sending stuff here, shows the RAM's probably alright. We know that because there's a chip select comes from here, isn't there, on that. Unless the trace there's damaged and it's not getting to this, but I'll be honest, I logic probed around here and I saw activity all the way around. It's not like we had a high impedance connection, so I think the ROM is dead on this. I'm not sure if this ROM's been replaced. The solder points look a bit strange on this side, so yeah, they look alright on that side, so they look factory, if I'm honest. Anyway, let's get that ROM off and I'll do a bypass of it. So using the desolder station here, I've got it set to 420. What I do is press sideways a little bit until you hear the pin squeak like it's moving, and then suck, remove, suck, because otherwise this thing blocks really blooming easily. I've had people in the past, I think Dave Curran suggested actually, if you hold the board sideways you've got less chance of blocking it, and that's a good point, or upside down even. And it's just a 27C 1000, I think it is, or 1001, the ROM. Right, so this is the situation I'm in. I absolutely hate audio faults on the Neogeo, Z80 error in particular. Got the diagnostics ROM in here, got the M1 diag cart in, I've done the SM1 bypass. I've spent literally hours going around checking all of the data connections to the C1, the address connections between the Z80 and the D0, the output enable. On this one, it's not done the same way it's done on the, 1AX. The ROM, instead of using the chip select to control whether the thing's enabled, it's actually at the output enable. The chip select's just grounded. So I accidentally grounded the chip select, not knowing that, so I was lucky I didn't kill the D0 actually. But through testing there, worked out that that pin is toggling high and low, and I thought let's just revert back to what I don't think I showed you earlier. This series of tests here, it's not got a ROM, as I say, the ROM's disabled, it's done the bypass, but just watch what happens. Or more importantly, listen to what happens. I'm going to hold D down to do the sound test. So we get that, SM1 unresponsive, that's to be expected because there is no SM1. Press start. All tests passed, and you heard the normal tones there. So I'll do that again, reset it, then it says press start, It's working, yeah? Sticky cart in, no sound, yeah? This is what I don't get. This is another one of these. So I'm thinking maybe it's one of the op amps is knackered on this. It could be like that other one I had where I spent ages chasing my tail, and actually it was a bad op amp, or a via actually to one of the op amps. So what we're hearing there is the PSG. Now you'd think, actually, let's just think ahead. Let's just swap back to Unibars. Since that is seemingly working there, just by virtue of putting a Unibars in, Now this cart may be, actually, maybe the game, that's the problem. Oh, we've got sound. That's interesting. Because it's running the M1 diag. That is interesting. So now we have sound. Let's just leave that a sec. Let's let that boot. I'll just turn that down a wee bit. Hey, yeah. So that's working. So why the hell is Windjammer's not working now? Unless the cart is dirty, I don't know. Yeah, what you're hearing there, those tones, are the diagnostics tones from the M1 diag on that cart. Right? So I'll switch it off. I'll take the cart out. And this is the thing that's been doing the editing, is trying to understand why does the diagnostics work, but when I put Windjammers in, it doesn't blooming work. Maybe it's the cartridge. I'll try a different cart. Maybe it's just a dirty or a bad connection. I'm going to be amazed if this started working now. I really would. Oh, cats are smashing the place up here. Look, no sound. No sound. Now, maybe it is the PSG thing. Maybe that's the clue here. We just heard PSG. So let's just let this go into the game where we may get some PSG sounds. Maybe it's got a bad DAC. So, I'm not hearing anything so far. See, I don't know whether this uses the PSG. Oh, it's really ruddy mysterious though. So no sound again. I could have sworn this did make use of PSG somewhere. Maybe I need to try a few of the games here. Maybe Magician Lord, that might use the PSG. No, I don't think it does actually. Top Players Golf may though. Although I thought it was primarily FM. So I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get how we can have no sound yet. The sound, you heard it a minute ago. With the M1 diag, we have sound. What is going on? Oh wow, we do have some sound. So all is not lost. I say that, and now there's no sound. I don't get it. How did we get a swing noise and then we didn't? You know, I'm starting to question whether I'm imagining things now. Did I imagine a swing? I'm sure I heard it. And I heard a little putting noise there as well. Now we don't have it, which, I don't know, it's just flipping weird. Switch it off for a minute, and then switch it back on. No, no sound again. Right, I'm going to go back to one of my old proven tests now, which is to put the Unibar sound test. Just step through, go right channel. Sensor, in fact, let's do that. Use the logic probe on the DAC here and see if we see any change here. So you've got a pulse in there, log. Pulse in there. Pulse in there. I think what I need to do is, I don't know whether this makes a single tone. If I do right, that's on the right channel. See, because it's a DAC, you get data coming across here continuously, but I'm not seeing a pattern change there. So maybe the YM2610 is not generating the sound here. I'm trying to be careful what I'm touching here. Because it is very hot, but you know what, these do get hot, but I don't know, I just can't make any sense of this. Right, as much as I don't want to do it, I'm going to have to take off the 2610. I mean, there's a bit of corrosion around it anyway, but the thing is here, if you just look at this interrupt pin here, see, it's low, stuck low. Now, I have heard in the past, and it flashed there, look, but it's stuck low predominantly, you know, like most of the time. And I have heard in the past that the YM2610, that's one of the things that happens. Something goes wrong with the interrupt side of things. Now, it's interesting the diagnostic side doesn't pick up a problem with the IRQ, but at that point, it's only doing PSG stuff, and that all works fine. I think it's when it comes to do some FM or stuff with the samples there, the PCM, that it's raising an interrupt and getting stuck. Something's going wrong at that point, it gets stuck. Which is why, I mentioned before there was a golf swing noise. I've heard that just once or twice, or part of it, but nothing else. Which suggests, and that IRQ pin, if you keep an eye on it, it doesn't just stay stuck low, it stays low for an extended period of time. And then usually when the scene changes on the game or something, it will sort of spring back to life just for a second, and more often than not, that's when you hear the noise. But it's very, very, very infrequent. I've only heard it like twice, I think. I tested all of the connectivity around here. The clocks are all there to the 2610. Data bus is there. The data bus goes there between there and the Z80. The address, you see it flash there? Address lines between the Z80 are fine. There's only 2 of those. The stuff to the DAC is okay. The read-write are okay from the D0. The chip selects. Everything's fine. It just, the only clue we have is that active low, that stuck low there. So it's either that or it's the Z80. I think it's this, and there's more corrosion here. The Z80 is kind of like largely untouched. So yeah, as much as I hate removing shrink dip ICs, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to use hot air. I'm going to heat on the underside and pull it off, and then unblock the holes, fit a socket, and I think maybe I've got a spare 2610 somewhere. Other than that, I'll have to take the one off the other board. So yeah, it's turned into a repair from hell, this one. Well, that was a nightmare to get off, if I'm honest. So I used the desolder station originally, then I used the desolder pump, then I used hot air, then I used the desolder pump, then I used the desolder pump again, then I used hot air, and eventually it came off. So all the pads are alright, that's the main thing. That was the reason to try and use hot air after removing all the solder. So yeah, I mean, it's really dirty under there, you can see that. And the pads, yeah, they're all there, believe it or not. They've just got corrosion on them. So yeah, it needed to come off no matter what. Hopefully that's not a pad. I think it's just a bit of solder actually. Let's just go over it with the fiberglass pencil, just gently. Problem is there's lots of solder here still. So I'm just being really gentle. Just get the corrosion off, and then it might bite with the flux a bit better. Yeah, you can just about see there, some of those are becoming a lot more visible. Yeah, so spot the difference between the two sides here. This is looking perfect now. So I'll just do the same on that side. All I did is trail some flux up there and use some desolder braid with a bit of solder on the end of it, and then just drag over each pad several times, and then just drag over the whole lot a couple of times just to clean it all up. There's a bit of solder still there, it makes that look a bit of a funny shape, but we haven't lost any of the pads here, or any parts of the pads either. So anyway, we can pull that off now. And that seems still okay, and the one around the socket, and again that looks alright. So I'm certainly glad there aren't a million traces under there. It just makes this whole process here now a little bit easier. You know, you can see we just need to just clean up, just make sure these wires are alright. I mean, there's 2 there, tin those traces, you can see they're a bit disintegrated. But then look how clean it is, no problems getting a socket on. I certainly would not solder on a 2610. Tin these wires here, I think, maybe. And then we'll get the socket on. But I'll be honest, I've tested through to the other side, and the wires on the other side are okay. It was just a tiny little bit of light surface corrosion on this side. But while I'm here, what I will do is just get some nail polish just over a few bits here, like those there. Those wires are alright. I'll do these ones here as well. Bear in mind the socket's going to be over this, you're not going to see this. And there's a very fine trace that is just exposed a little bit. I've exposed it. That just goes down the edge here. I've taken photos of this as well, just in case I should need to fix that trace there. But yeah, you won't see it, the socket will be over there in a minute. Right, a socket on, 2610 on. That's a new, well, I say new, it's a tested working 2610. Let's just test it with the unibars, you know, the left-right sensor. If that works, then it's probably fixed, but just doing a sense check. It is the right way around. I really hope this works. So yeah, we got a control, haven't we now? What? How have we still got nothing? Maybe it's the Z80 after all this. The speaker's on. I mean, it's not got an M1 though, so is that the issue here? Let's switch it off. Anyway, let's get the cart bridge on. I don't know, I think this is going to be a Z80 issue, isn't it, after all this? It's weird though, because it passes the test, so you think if there was an IRQ problem, would it not fail the IRQ test? and then it passes the communication test, which is, again, mysterious. So let's, hang on. Oh yeah, we got unibars in. Let's try that, see if that does anything. Nope. No sound again. Oh my god, it's doing my head in this. So it has to be a Z80 thing, doesn't it? Because, look, hang on. Oh, hang on. Yeah, IRQ's pulsing there now. Wasn't a minute ago. Maybe it is working. Maybe it's now fixed, but maybe we have a separate issue. I wonder if it killed the DAC. That's a possibility. Whatever failure occurred killed the DAC, because that IRQ is not stuck now. So it did have a balked YM2610. Certainly a multiple faults issue, this. Let's now logic probe the DAC. Right, so title screen is up. Let's just have a probe here. Hang on. I'll tell you what, let me do the sound test again in the Unibars. Because that's the most telling one when you do, you know, left channel, right channel, centre. Because you can actually see the pulse where it goes dee, dee. It's like more bright on the red, I think, or the green, I forget which. So I'll do centre, so both channels should be doing something if it was. I'll put in here. Not see anything there. I don't know, let me just try and change left, right. So I spent a full afternoon yesterday trying to work out the sound issue on this. It's really difficult because the car's in the way. You can turn the board upside down, and I've done that a few times there just to try and probe various things. But like on the surface of, say, the I0 or the D0, you can't access it, so you need to try and trace where the wires go and then mark the wires on the underside. It's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare trying to diagnose certain problems with these. So one thing I do know is I found another SM1, probably the one that came off the other board, and I reinstated those, fitted the socket, made sure the traces are okay around there. You know, everything's fine connectivity wise all around the sound section. I can't find any issues. So that does just the same as the other one. They both give SM1 latch ignored. Marked up my replacement one as okay there because I know that that one is, but then swapped over again exactly the same behaviour with the previous one. So I think that IRQ issue was just a symptom rather than a cause. I think they're both behaving the same way. Now the interesting thing I just noticed is running the diagnostics with the SM1 in place as it originally should have. With the SM1 installed, the thing I've just noticed with the diagnostics is it would pass the test, then glitch and give a communication error. And then you do it again and it pass, and then glitch again. And that repeated, so I thought, well, okay, we're in a slightly different scenario now. We're getting two things. We get the SM1 latch issue with the diagnostics, and then it either passes or it gives you a communication error issue. But it sounds okay, you know, it does the normal, the tones that the test M1 ROM gives when I'm testing with the diagnostics BIOS. So I swapped back to Unibars and I thought, let's just see if it's intermittent, which it seems to be. Let's see if it's intermittent with the game. So we're using, a Unibars with the SM1 fitted, it's not bypassed. Now bear with me, because it will take me a number of power cycles, but I just did this a minute ago, so I went switch off, switch on, and then at some point we had sound, which tells me that whatever it is intermittent. Right, I've spent a few hours trying to work out what's going on with this. If I just connect the probe ground there to the crystal strap, it's going to be difficult to show you this. If I just probe one of the wires here, this is what I'm doing, I've just been focused on all the wires on the top side and the bottom side to work out if one of them's weak, and I think I found it. If I probe this one here, see we've got a clock signal, and if I probe the trace that goes to... Oh, hang on, it is alright. It wasn't a minute ago. Yeah, there is a chance I've just improved the situation. Let's just try it with an actual car. If it starts working, I know that's the one. What was happening was probing the via had a pulsing signal, and then I was probing the trace and where it goes to on here on the D0, and it was very low, like, I don't know, 50 millivolts. Well, you're not going to believe this. I've just spent an hour chasing my tail with the oscilloscope, and then just suddenly spotted that the SRAM was not fitted. I fixed it by blocking one or two wires yesterday. But yeah, I have just spent at least an hour messing with this, scoping things, going, everything looks alright. but why isn't it working is a mystery. I thought that one of those two wires should have fixed it, and then I just noticed the SRAM was missing. That's incredible. So, hey, I fixed it. It's up and running, I think. It's quite quiet on that part, isn't it? I'll try a few different games, but yeah, I'm confident, I think. Yes. Hey! And it's using its original YM2610, so there was no interrupt problem or anything there. I think that was just a symptom rather than a cause. Fantastic. So whilst that's on test, I'm just correcting something I did ages and ages and ages ago. When I got these Neo buffs, I had my own. I had some of Furrtek's, and I used some of Furrtek's, I used some of mine, and then I started having problems with mine, I think, so I had to rule out a problem with mine, so I took some of the chips off one of Furrtek's. Yeah, so they needed to go back on. I've had these chips for ages now, and I've just realised what it was for, was to put them back on here. So yeah, I had one of these spare. I think I had another one or so of these. I think one went to Sparks, one or two went on to the boards for my Impairment, I think. Got one of my original boards there that obviously needs grinding down. That's the last one of those. But I might fit the chips on that anyway in advance. But yeah, I've got the chips the right way around here. Pin 1 is towards the bottom left. That's, you know, the text is upside down here, that's correct. I just compared to the one you can't quite see on the edge there. So yeah, I'm just going to turn the airflow down because that's going to just blow it away. And it's still got the original solder underneath where the centre tab was. So I'm just going to heat this up until it sort of pulls it itself into position. You see it nearly blew away then, and then I'll drag solder. These are QFN, aren't they? Or TF QFN, I think. They're like the smallest version of QFN. It's hard to know if that's in place. Yeah, there you go, it's bobbing. Let's do this one. It's probably already almost at temperature, that one, just by virtue of being in close proximity to the other one on the PCB. There we go. Just touching it, you can, hang on. I was going to say, yeah, there we go. It's kind of floating on the centre pad. Both look pretty straight, I think. Let's let that cool. I might need to adjust it yet. Let's let that cool, I think, and then I'll have a go at drag soldering. So this is really hard to do the camera here, but I find these really easy to solder. Just do a bit of a drag like that. Hang on. Yeah, I can't see whether there we go. Yeah, I couldn't see whether I've got a bridge there. I'll have to obviously inspect in a minute, but it's easier than it might look. Yeah, I feel like balance has been restored to the universe. It's one of these things, you know, it sat there in that bag with those new 245s for ages, waiting for me to put them back on there. The fact that Furrtek assembled it to start with and some of the other ones, you know, that one, having taken the chips off it, just felt wrong. It just felt really wrong having took the chips off it. At least now it's going to go into use on a board at some point. I think we both used the exact same chips, actually. We both selected the chips around the time I was designing my PCB and Furrtek was working on his, and Electron Ash joined in. I looked at a few different ones and this ended up being the best one. And yeah, we all came to the same conclusion, hence why this has got exactly the same chips as mine. I don't think there were many options, to be honest. They're probably even the same manufacturer. I think I got them from DigiKey. Yeah, that's not too bad. I should get the toothbrush onto it as well. I mean, I could in theory revise my PCB and build some more of my own, but it's just not blooming worth it. The price Furrtek sells these for, if I'm honest, it's just far blooming easier just to buy this. And I know it says it's on Rev B. Yeah, this has got an A at the bottom there. His later ones, I'll show you in a minute. He sent me, I bought a load of chips off him. He sent me some spare extra ones as well, which is very kind of him. They're marked B, so he's obviously done a small revision somewhere. I don't know what. Maybe improving the ground plane or just changing the physical size a bit better for panelisation, or I don't know, he's done something. But anyway, that is blooming clean. Yeah, there we go. So that looks pretty sweet. Yeah, so here are the other ones I bought, and you can see they've got a B on there. I mean, they look absolutely identical. there must be a subtle difference somewhere. It's a different colour board, I think. Even the prints, you know, the silk screen is different. Maybe he's used a different manufacturer or something, I don't know. Oh, he's got his Furrtek engineering logo there. That's not on this one, is it? I don't think. Yeah, even the underside looks very, very similar. Anyway, I'm just going to open this. I don't need these just now, but these fail so often, these Neo buffs. It's, yeah, it's one of those things that it's a really good idea to have some spares. Because I've got a Neo CD. If you've got a Neo CD, you'll know that it uses Neo buff chips. And it's probably only a matter of time before one of them dies in my Neo CD. I'll stick those in there. Yeah, it's always useful to have some of those as spares. So hours and hours and hours later, I've spent a lot of time cleaning this. Yeah, it's perfect, rock solid, stable. The issue with the sound, yeah, all that messing around, trying to understand why the sound test passed and games didn't. It was actually the RAM. It was actually the Z80 RAM. That was the fault. I know that because if I put the original Z80 RAM back in, it behaves exactly the same way. So yeah, it's incredible how long that took to resolve. And it was something simple. But if I just turn that off, actually, the interesting thing there is the diagnostics passed. That shows you that that SNK diagnostics BIOS isn't doing what it should do, really. You want something that runs on the M1, you know, there's M1 ROM there, the Z80, and tests out all of the RAM as part of one of the tests. Maybe it's not doing an address test or something, maybe it's just, I don't know, a quick, simple RAM test. But nevertheless, that was the issue. So this one works. As part of the testing there, I took the one off the other board, the other one just instantly gets absolutely red hot. And I nearly burnt myself actually just touching it. I always do that. If you change the chip out, just have your finger ready on it, switch it on, and just make sure it doesn't go nuclear the minute you switch it on, and it did. So I switched it straight off, changed to another RAM, and then it was around that time it started working. I was like, was it the RAM? What was the cause? So anyway, I got some replacement RAMs here. You can see these ones are Sony. I'll stick the part number top left there. It's the same chip that you use in the fast VRAM here. So that's always useful to have additional spares of those. I honestly never knew that the pinout was the same. Yeah, they're just 2K, aren't they? 2K VRAMs. So anyway, I just discovered something interesting. If I just show you this, this is running with the Unibars Metal Slug 4. Now I've seen things like this in the past and never really paid much attention to it, or dug down to work out. But because I just swapped that RAM out, this is the thing that made me want to be a bit more inquisitive with this error. So you can see that it works, no issues at all, but it doesn't work with the stock BIOS. Let me show you. So I'll switch that off, rust strap on, just get the cart out, get the bridge casing thing off, and let's just take out the Unibars here. There we go, pop that onto PSU, get the Mascaron back in, and I think this is a later Mascaron. It doesn't, oh yeah, SPS2, it doesn't say the revision, I don't think. But anyway, I think this is a later one because the self-test has got the coloured blocks. I could be wrong, I might just be forgetting. Anyway, let's connect it all back up here again. So this is using one of those replacement RAM chips, the Sony ones. And this is the thing, I was like, is it something to do with that? So you start Metal Slug 4, and you get this screen every single time. So it's like it's convinced we've got a fake MVS, and we don't have a fake MVS. The only thing I can take from that is it is the BIOS, because you swap the BIOS over for Unibars and it works alright. I mean, it could be a hacked version of the game, or they bodged the code or something, I don't know. But yeah, so that's something to note, that if you've got a 161-in-1, or you want to get a 161-in-1, you want to get a Unibars as well, because you're going to get this sort of problem, I think, certainly with the 161-in-1. But that BIOS, I am sure, is original. I mean, if I switch it off, I'll show you. I don't know if it tells you the version there. Let's just cycle the power, and if I hit start, when the cross hatch comes up, yeah, that there, isn't this, there's a 5 up there, doesn't that mean it's Rev 5? I think it probably is, because you don't tend to get this here unless you get one of the later BIOSes. Maybe it's a fake BIOS. I don't know. Bear in mind there's a problem with the player 2 on here, that's why that right direction's showing as pressed. So you can see it's looking super clean and tidy around here. Every single one of these wires I have plugged with Kano. So I've got a little bead of solder on every single one of any questionable wires around here. You know, there's many. There are many of them, all the ones down here. We've got some broken traces here, obviously, but everything's fixed on the underside. So, yeah, I mean, I'll show you more later when I finish cleaning it up, but it's pretty pristine, this board now. I'm happy with it. It lives to see another day. Just need to try and find another C1 at some point in the future. So it's been on test for about 2.5 hours, working perfectly, and it sounds good as well. So I've cleaned the PCB up on both sides, super clean. I have spent, I don't know, a couple of hours actually over different, you know, occasions. Probably an hour on the front, an hour on the back. Look how dirty the shell is here, it's incredible. So yeah, just cleaning it up this way. You could put it in the sink and scrub it, but yeah, I quite enjoy doing it this way actually. And I can just go over it, you know, a couple of times here with a clean paper towel, and it will come out good as new. Just get all these dirty marks off it. And there we go, all cleaned up. So yeah, labels are still intact. I'll show you that one. Yeah, it says, see manual instructions for harness connection to either monaural, 1 speaker, or stereo, 2 speakers cabinets. So yeah, there's a little dink there. There's obviously a couple of scratches on it, but it's pristine now in terms of cleanliness. And there's another thing here. Make sure the SW switch is on the mono sound position when you use jammer type cabinet. It shows you the board there with the stereo mono switch. And that's pretty clear on the underside as well. So as you can see, got all the feet back on. I've got all 6 original feet here, but there's also 4 screws left over, and I remembered this particular model has something that goes on the back here, doesn't it? It's got this piece of plastic. Yeah, so I suspect this goes this way. It just covers the top of the pins there. You could have it the other way up though, but if you did that, then those would be visible there. So, protects the back parts there a bit better maybe. I'm honestly not sure which way around that goes. It could go either way there. Yeah, I think we'll assume it goes that way. I will need to press the credit button on the supergun there because I've not got unibars at the moment. You know, select will not add a credit. Sweet. Fantastic. Bear in mind the sound's only coming from that one tinny speaker at the moment, but the sound is stereo and working correctly. Good God, do these keep coming forever here? No. 2 different routes here, aren't there? You can go underground by crouching down and going under there and going in the sub. That's underground or water, really. Nothing to like about Metal Slug 3. You get multiple routes. I think you're probably doing some of these Metal Slug games, but 3 is certainly the best, I think, for that. I think Helen was the name of one of the developers, the wives of the developers, can't speak. Oh, forgot to get out the sub. Anyway, that is working fine. This is just the equivalent of, and this is obviously a UK brand I'm talking about here, and it's an old brand, Yoo-Hoo, which is just like a rubbery glue, you know, so I'm just going to get some of that on that serial label there on the end, and then just press it down here like that. Yeah, and that will set and just go a little bit rubbery, so it's not like super glue, it's not going to permanently mark the board. You could get it off with a bit of IPA, but since it's got its original SNK Electronics Corp serial number of 436352, let's just reinstate that and it may survive the test of time. So yeah, rather than show you things out of sequence, yeah, I'm just taking it back to bits just to give you a quick look at the board at the end here, but also just to clean a few bits here that are missed. You can see down here around the LED, it's pretty blooming dirty. There's a lot of dirt, and this was over the whole blooming board, this dirt. It took an incredible amount of time to clean up. I never named the repair. So I guess it's worth just waffling a bit about the actual repair. So you'll have seen in the earlier parts of part of this series here, there was a point where, you know, both D0s died, didn't they? Both D0s. One of them had a missing clock. That was this board originally, I think, on the D0. And then we swapped the D0 for the one on the other board, and they brought the CPU clock back. And that seemed alright for a short period, but then it lost one of the other clocks. So we ended up with clocks missing on both D0s, and it's no wonder, because, you know, if you just look over here at the D0, this is where the clocks come out here, and that's the bit that was super corroded on both boards, on both D0s. So yeah, it is looking very clean. It's just incredible how far this board has come. I didn't think this would be working. So yeah, coming back to the earlier parts and stuff, this isn't the one that had the address problem. You know, it's saying like it was an address error, wasn't it? A13 to A15 or something. That's the other board. Now I think that may have been caused by clock problems on the D0 on that board. I might be wrong, but that's a possibility. The other thing it may be on that other board is this. Maybe the ROM address selection stuff is not quite right. Could even be a balked trace around there on the other board. I'll show you that other board in a minute before I put that away into storage for the moment. But we've obviously got another one of these, so I can get the D0 on there and get that one up and running, and I may do that. But we're also a C1 down. The one here is the one that came from Stephen Leary's board. So this has obviously got problems with P2. I'll label that up in a minute so that that's crystal clear. But all this needs to make this board 100% is a new C1. Can't get them though, they're impossible to find. The only place you're going to get one of those is another faulty board. And if we get another faulty board, I've talked about this before, you get a spares board to fix this. I'll bet anything the spares board has got very little wrong with it, and we can just fix the spares board. It might have, say, a Z80 error, and it might just be the Z80. Or it could have a backup RAM error, and it'll just be the backup RAM. So then you start to think, well, if you get a board that's not suffered all this damage, and all it has is a backup RAM that's faulty, why would you take the C1 off it and put it on here? Just see what I mean? So it's like, it's one of these, it's a never-ending series. The two spares boards that I've still got, which I'll show you in a minute, as I say, both of them I could get working again if I can get parts from other boards. So yeah, I'm kind of reluctant. I think although I would like to try and work out what that addressing error was, so I don't know. I'm in mixed thoughts at the moment. What I may do is stick the C1 that was on here on the other board. I think there were enough inputs to get input working, but it was coming up in AES mode, wasn't it, with that other C1, because there's a register in there, I think, that you know, it uses to determine, is it MVS, is it AES? We may find, after we get it on the other board, that that part of it's alright. It could just have been some shorts or something on some pins that I didn't spot, because there was a point earlier in this series where I had a short on one of these C1s between the UDS and something next to it, and a reflow, and in fact even a reflow didn't resolve it. When I took it off, then the short went away. Maybe that caused that damage we saw in the C1 that was on here earlier, or maybe that short meant that it was causing some of the weird behaviour when it was on here, you know, when we swapped the D0. Do you see what I mean? You can go round and round and round in circles, you know, speculating and stuff when you're taking a chip of questionable origin off a corroded board and putting it onto another board. You know, yes, you can check things with a scope, and that's ultimately what I ended up doing here. I use the logic probe, but yeah, checking with a scope and a logic probe to make sure that some of these things, the signals are there, and you've not got high impedance and all the rest of it. But you do need to know the status of the chips that you're putting onto a board. So anyway, watch this space. We may revisit this board. But overall, it's come out exceptional. I think you'll agree. It really has. It's a bit discoloured down here. Do you see that? You know, these were shiny and silver. That makes me think it's just like a wee bit of oxidisation got down there. I don't know. It's a bit mysterious. But it may be that it was like that when it came off the original board, off Stephen Leary's board. And flipping it over the underside, you can see very little in the way of rework here. Just those wires there for those traces. But obviously I blocked lots of the wires here. Yeah, that was where I cut the trace to disable the SM1. and to solder a wire to put the the Z80 into halt state when the SM1 is enabled. That was a fixed wire down there because there was that broken trace you saw on the other side. I think there were 4 wires I showed you, and the 4th one was balked, so it's a little wire over there. So yeah, very little in the way of fixed wires. There's got hair there, look, I'll get that off in a sec. But on the underside, this board is spotless, absolutely spotless. There's a few streaks there, but yeah, I think you'll agree, that's almost good as new. And it's the same all over the top side. Look how glossy and shiny that is. Hope, yeah, there's evidence there of the hours that I put into cleaning this just to finish this off. It really does look good as new. And the wall zone over here, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. So whilst we're in this area here, this is amazing. Furrtek has done an incredible job replicating the D0 functionality on this tiny little PCB with these castellated edges here, with literally next to nothing else needed. You know, a couple of caps. We did add a resistor, which I cannot see for the life of me. It's here, between the 2 clock pins on the end. It's tiny, out for the smallest size it could get. And yeah, it just goes from one pin to the other. I think it's 560k. But I think he said up to a meg. Now, I think that was only on this early V1, so I think by the time you got into V2, you don't need to worry about adding that little resistor. Yeah, we've got one there to go on the other board, should we want to revisit that. And I will do if I can find a C1. And then we've got a proto here. I'm not sure I ever showed this. This is a proto of the G0. Yeah. Now, there was a mistake with this. I never got round to test this, and months went by, and then eventually Furrtek says, "Oh, I hope you've not tested that yet. There's a problem. I had to revise it." I think he got some pinouts the wrong somewhere there. So I think this is going to be a reclaim job. I did ask him. He probably doesn't feel it's worth the time, and I don't blame him because it isn't. I did say, "Is there anything on here I can fix? Like, is it something just needs rewiring, or is it completely, you know, balked in the design?" He's not got back to me, so I'll assume that it's just easier to reclaim these things off here. So I'll take these 2 caps off, I'll remove those 5 ICs. Those will go into my spares drawer. But then I also got these. You saw these earlier on. These are the Neo buffs. So I've got a bunch of the Rev B Neo buffs, a couple of Rev A's. One of them we stuck those 2 4 5s on earlier. So yeah, when I get time, I'll just get the Dremel out and Dremel all the way up to the second via, all the way around, just to prepare that. So yeah, that's those. And then I bought these as spares. I thought I may have needed some of these for Stephen Leary's board, but I didn't need to as things transpire. So we've got some Neo 257s. So these are the chips where you've got, you know, 4 74 HC 257s. I think they are. And then there's another chip on there that provides a bit of logic, probably for the, you know, the control of those. And then you've also got some 273s. Again, those are used on multi-slots and stuff as well. So they're going to be 74HC 273s with, I don't know, some other IC there. Again, probably to control the output enables and all that sort of stuff. And I forget what a 273 is. It might be a latch or something, I don't know. It could be a MUX or DMUX. But and then you've also got the G0s, and these were very similar to the Neo buff. Yeah, it's got more connections, I think. So as a Neo buff is, I forget how many there are, isn't it? 16. It's like 2 HC245s, isn't it? A Neo buff, one of these. Whereas this, I think, has got twice the amount. Yeah, and I think there's an AND and OR gate in one of these ICs or something around here. Or, I don't know, I forget exactly. Something like that. I might be thinking of the I0 actually that's like that. But anyway, 245s again. You know, 4 lots of them. So again, those on multi-slots and stuff. Yeah, and these are really, really cheap and affordable. You might pay, I don't know, £4 or £5 each for these, maybe 6 or 7. And these ones again, £2 or £3 each. It's, you know, you couldn't buy original ones. I mean, they've got a couple in there, like with question marks and things on. Those were just the last few that were left over from my impairment stuff. That I think they probably were, but they've got issues. And then across the 2 boards that you'll see in a minute that are still keeping as spares, which we may revisit. I've just grounded myself before handling these, by the way. You can see we've got a selection of bits and pieces here. Yeah, so that's an I0, it's marked OK. And then we've got the Neo C1 that came off this board, I think. So, yeah, that's got a cross on it. But just for the moment, I'm keeping that because, you know, if I stick the D0 on that other board, you'll see in a minute, I would stick that on there just to see, do we still have the register problem? Quite happy if there's a controller input problem. But if we, you know, if we had enough controls to be able to navigate the diagnostics menu, that would mean that that's useful just to get that other board up and running. And then we've got the ZMC2, the question mark there, that I took off my 2-slot. So if you watch that video, you remember that it was intermittent. It's like it would you power it on your graphics, and then the graphics are gone. So yeah, I always kept that just in case the off chance there was some resistive connectivity under one or two of the pins. And you know what? That might be the issue, because if you look at that, can you see it looks a little bit oxidised on the underside? So you never know, that ZMC may work. That'll be something to check in a future video. And then these are all just I think RAMs off the board the 2 boards you're about to see. We've also got 3 ICs here in a non-safe bag, but yeah, these have been marked as dead, as you can see. I think these are all D0s, actually. I think we've got 3 D0s here that are balked. I think I may even have some sockets for this size chip. You may not think you can get sockets like that, but you can, trust me, the military. Generally only the military use them, maybe in aviation and stuff. So I have some of those, assuming the pin count is the same. It might be, I'll check that. So I might stick a socket onto one of the boards I'll show you in a sec. And we've got the YM2610 that I tested here. So this isn't the one off this board, this is one that I purchased from AliExpress or somewhere. I think I bought a job lot of 3. One of them was a bit glitchy, the other 2 were good as new. But those have obviously been reclaimed. You can see the solder there, look, and the pins. That's not new. Anything you buy like that off AliExpress, old parts, you tend to find it's been reclaimed. And we've got the SM1. I know that's alright because the board's, you know, it's socketed on this board. I just swapped over to that and tested that earlier. And then we got a YM3016 DAC, and we got the another one there, I think. And what's that? That's the RTC 4990. But also from this board, it had a balked mask ROM, so that was a fault. And yeah, the obviously the RAM, yeah. But there was another faulty RAM. The RAM off the board I'm about to show you in a minute. That goes nuclear. As soon as you plug it in, and you make sure it's the right way around, put your finger on top, you nearly burn your hand. It goes instantly nuclear. So, and obviously just got our test BIOSes there. So you'll have seen this board at the end of the previous videos. So yeah, very little damage here. I may have lost no, I haven't actually. It's still yeah, I was going to say the pads here. I maybe have lost 1 or 2 of the unused pads there, but yeah, everything else is fine. Yeah, those look a bit questionable as well. But so yeah, that board could be reused. You know, I could stick everything back on here. The things I'm short of is trying to get a surface mount one of those where we can bypass that. Surface mount one of those, that's a problem actually. Same with that one. So yeah, this is the problem. So maybe this is just best off still to be kept as spares, and that's got a cross through it. But in theory I could backfill with lots of things here. Yeah, we've got the D0s from Furrtek. I've got a ZMC2, I think. Certainly on the next board you'll see. So I don't know, we might be able to get one more board working yet. There's no C1 on this, it's done differently. Functionality is split between some of these here, some of those I think, and one of these, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's why there's no C1 on this later AX board. And then finally, there's the board we started off on this particular part of the series. Yeah, so this is the one that was given the address faults. So yeah, I removed the RAM there. I forget exactly the sequence of events. Did so much to this board. You know, we thought I removed the CPU, thinking is that something to do with the addressing problem? But no, it's not likely to be something like that. You'd notice a problem with the address line if that was the issue. It could be this or something around here. But I did test all the connectivity on the address lines in the data bus, so everything I could. And I couldn't really find any clue there, so it was a bit weird, this one. And obviously I did some socketing here, all sorts of stuff on this one. This was a real stressful board to work on. So yeah, I probably removed those. Could get a D0 back on. If we get a C1, then we can see where this is at, yeah, and then introduce the RAM and stuff. And it's also got a missing low ROM. I think that went to Dennis Vandenbroek, actually. He had a missing low ROM, but we can replace that with an EEPROM. I think you can use a 27C something or other. You may need to swap a couple of pins around, regards to the JEDEC thing. But yeah, with a little bit more work, this could live to see another day. And I think there's a lot less wrong with this board than the one I just showed you. You know, there's very little to find and replace, you know, components and things on here. That's got a cross on it. One thing I did notice with this, not sure I covered it in the series here, at the point when I did have some clocks on here, I worked out one of the sound issues with this, well, two issues. I mentioned to you there was a latch problem on the audio latch on one of them. That was the D0 that was here. So even though the clocks were working, the latch side of it was balked, yeah? And I'm saying latch, it's not really latch, it's sort of like, it does something like the output enable for this or something on the chip select, I think. But the other problem I notice is the OR gate here. I think I lifted that pin, I'm not sure, I can't really tell. But yeah, that's why this has got a cross. Because this works, but the OR gate on there was balked. And at one point I did have the pin lifted, and I had some wires, and yeah, with another D0, at some point I got everything working there. But that D0 was just on here temporarily. And this is the thing, you know, I've talked about this a lot as well. When you take chips off and on, off and on, off and on, pads just go. You know, it's inevitable. That will happen. The epoxy that hold the pads, you know, that hold the metal surface onto a PCB like this, it's only going to, you know, tolerate so many cycles of heat, you know, extreme heat. So yeah, but that is totally fixable. Really, you know, I really want to be able to show you the repair of this one, because I know I can get this up and running. I know I can get this one up and running. I'm just going to try and hunt for some spares boards, I think, that are in worse condition than this, that perhaps have a C1. And one thing that can make your mind up when you get a spares board that's perhaps got little wrong with it compared to this, let's say, I don't know, one of those 1AXs, well, that's got lots of Neo buffs on it, hasn't it? That's not a good example, because obviously it's not got a C1, but maybe a 1FZ. You come across a 1FZ, it's in pretty good condition, it's got a backup RAM issue. Well, this board is better. Even though the other board might be in better condition, this is better, because it's got these here. I think I talked about the cart slot thing before. I prefer the cart slot on this. It's probably going to be more reliable than the 1FZ. And you've got the volume stuff here and headphone, yeah? Yeah, just the fact it's got the joystick ports built in, and it's got the volume stuff here, and the stereo mono switch. Yeah, this is more desirable than most of the other 1 slots, perhaps. Although compared to a 1C or a 1B, you know, obviously this is huge. That can be a disadvantage. But I think if I was just getting into MVS stuff and I wanted a single slot board just to play my carts and stuff, this is what I'd be looking for. God, that's really sticky. And it's because I've made the board so glossy here by literally polishing it with cotton buds. It's like a car, this. I've been shining it. I'm surprised I didn't get my car polish onto it. There we go. Fixed 2022, again, it's waterproof. I'm leaving that there as a bit of history. 21st of the 3rd, I think that says 2000. So yeah, it had a long gap between 2000 and 2022, didn't it? It sat somewhere for, I don't know, about 20 years roughly, because I've only had this a few years. I think this came to me 2019 from Mike Pearman. But yeah, it's a long gap. And down here, I've got a label for the C1. It kind of feels wrong, this, because you know what, I think it's a successful repair. When you know exactly what's wrong with something, you've made the thing work, and we have made it work, it's functional, it's just not 2-player, then, hang on, as far as I'm concerned, that is a successful repair. I'm going to create an ES default here, just messing handling this look. There we go, that'll do, it's pretty straight. So yeah, it's waterproof, just like the other one. Yeah, so originally I had one there that said P2 fault, but it makes more sense this is 2P. So the fact that this is 2P fault, it's blooming obvious. But it doesn't interfere. What I mean by that is you can have P2, you know, controller faults on these where, let's say, start is on all the time. Well, that's a blooming pain in the you-know-what. Because if you put metal slug in, and a unibars, and this is starting, it just starts the game, and you're like, I can't move because player 2 won't move, etc. You know, do you see what I mean? It starts a 2-player game, and the second character stops you from moving across. So as long as the other buttons, anything but start, is the issue, you can get away with it, and it just ends up being a totally usable single player board. One final thing before I wrap this video up. So, I mean, what else could you do with this? You know, could Furrtek create something like this? A replacement C1? Well, yes. Internally, he understands the logic totally. You know, he's one of the people behind the Mr. Core. Yeah, so he knows exactly the internal schematics for this chip, and I think that's even published by Furrtek on the Neogeo developer wiki. So we know the logic for that, thanks to Furrtek. And yeah, what's the issue? The issue is, look at the pin density here compared to the D0. Yeah, the pins here are spread out more. This one here is like less than 100 pins, isn't it? Is it 80 something or something like that? Maybe that's a 64. I think it's 64 pin, isn't it? Yeah, this one is 100. Yeah, so your densities, you know, it's packed together. The pins here are packed together nearer because there's more pins. Well, you try and get a CPLD that's 5 volt tolerant on there, yeah, and route all those connections to that. It's perhaps impossible. You might be able to do it, and it's not just that. Actually, I think Furrtek would jump in the comments to them and go, no, that's not the issue, I can do that, I can route it, I can fit one on there, I can get a CPLD that'll fit, it's 5 volt tolerant, etc. I think the actual real problem is the castellated edges, trying to get a PC manufacturer to have that size of castellation all the way along, the traces that go with that. That might be the issue, because this is probably pushing the limits. I know you can't quite see it's on the edge here, but I think that was probably very hard to achieve. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, even 2 years, you may find that the PC manufacturers can offer something that would allow it to be done in a CPLD. The other thing you could do is, and I talked about this on my very first MVS repair. That video is awful. It really is. I'm like chucking boards around on the carpet and stuff. Make sure you wear an ESD wrist strap. Work from a mat here. You know, this will generate static electricity when you're moving around on it. The clothes you wear, if you're not grounded, you will just touch something like that and create an input fault just from your hands. Yeah. But the points in that video, I mentioned the idea there I had at the time, and this is, I don't know, 8-9 years ago now, and that was when I had a C1 fault just like this, where certain inputs are not working. It did occur to me that those inputs, if the way it works is the 68000, yeah, communicates with this chip at a specific address range where it wants to read the inputs, yeah, and then the inputs get passed through the HC245 in here to the data bus. So if you were to lift all the data bus connections, feed them into some little motherboard that you've got that's got the address lines going in to get the address decoding for the inputs, and then have the inputs go directly into some 245s on your little board, yeah, you can do a middleman thing where when the CPU is requesting the values from the ports here, it's not communicating with the C1, it's communicating with your little board, yeah, which is taking the inputs through your own 245s and passing them back to the data bus, yeah, and the CPU. And then of course when it's not, when that address range is not enabled, it just the connections would pass through to this. So you'd have to have connections coming out to a little board and the connections coming back from the board to here, and then it would, you know, be intelligent enough, the address decoding on there, to determine, do you want to communicate with this chip, or is it the ports you're trying to get? If you're trying to get the ports, this doesn't get the message, if you like, this doesn't get the comms on the data bus side and the control signals and stuff, that would pass through to the 245s on your little board. You could do that. And Furrtek actually talked about this in chat the other week and said that you'd already come up with that. He was like, yeah, I can do that, I've proved it, but it's really fiddly. You need like little ribbon things, and you need to lift all the data bus pins, lift some of the address bus pins, and it's just like a nightmare. It's a logistical nightmare. And that was why, even though I had that idea, I don't know, several years ago, I never progressed it. You know, you saw I did with the Neo Buff, when I built my own Neo Buff, and that was around the same time Furrtek did his. And I think, I'm not being big-headed, but I think I just prompted Furrtek to do his because he did his at exactly the same time, and I think he just didn't want to get beaten to the post, you know. And I think it was one of his ideas very early on. I'm not sure if he perhaps influenced me to go away and do it, actually, because it was thanks to him. I think that I had the knowledge that these, you know, the inputs on these have 245s in there. It's usually the 245s. Anyway, maybe one day we'll get some sort of modern replacement that can be created to replace the C1. So a massive thanks to Furrtek. I'm sorry it was a bit waffly there towards the end. We've got 2 or 3 more Neogeo repairs coming up at some point soon. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to support the channel, please see the Ko-fi and Patreon links down below. Every dollar donated means we can continue to do these videos, so I'm super grateful for every single person that supported me over the last 3 or 4 years. I'll catch you in the next video.